There are those who try to act like the demonstrations in the street are something that's new, and it just, this racism that's going on just started with the lunatic that occupies 1600 Pennsylvania. They try to act like, well, the U.S. is a melting pot and it has always been a free nation until the lunatic got in the White House and it's all his fault. Well, that is completely untrue. Trust me. You can look at me, I am a black woman. You can look at me and tell I have some age on me. And I will tell you that every year that I have been on the face of this earth and living in this country, which is all of my life, there has been a race problem in this country with the way that blacks and other ethnic groups are treated by the U.S. government. There has people failed to remember that in 1619, the first African who had been kidnapped from Africa was brought to Jamestown and enslaved to work and to help to develop the Jamestown colony. Now, it remains unclear if everything was so righteous, why they just didn't go and hire someone. Because why should you hire someone when you can kidnap and enslave people and bring them here? My people stayed enslaved in this country from 1619, really until today, but legally enslaved from 1619 to 1863 when the Emancipation was signed. During that time, black slaves built this country. They built the White House. They built every major business that was built in that time. It was black folks who picked the crops and made the plantations wealthy. It was black people who built the cities, enslaved black people who were never compensated. It was black people who did all the work and never were compensated. After 1863, my people went out and they said, well, we cannot go back to the motherland. Some did. Don't get me wrong. Some did, and they founded Liberia. But others had to stay. And those that stayed, they built towns. My people built schools. We built our own hospitals. We built everything we needed. And then all of a sudden, places like Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood in Florida, that we had built that was ours, were burned to the ground. And we had to go out into the general population. Not only that, slave catchers were sent to get blacks that had left and were brought back. They were kidnapped and brought back to the plantation to work once again for no money or under a sharecropper system, which was the same as not having any money. All of this was under the laws of this country. We had a set of laws they called the slave codes that forbid blacks from doing almost everything. And from the day we were emancipated until today, black people have been in a struggle with this country to just gain equal access, equal rights. Basically, yes, there's talk about reparations. And I'll stop right here and tell you how I feel about reparations. I feel that black people are not only black people entitled to reparations, but the entire continent of Africa is entitled to reparations. Because never forget, at the same time they were kidnapping blacks and bringing them to the U.S. to work, they were in Africa stealing the resources of Africa. A lot of people think I'm crazy when I say this, but if you read the Bible and you hear of the Garden of Eden, when you think of the Garden of Eden, you have to think of the continent of Africa, because every resource that can keep mankind alive is located on the continent of Africa. And even to this day, the majority of it is controlled by non-Africans. And that should be immoral. So back to the thing with my people in the U.S. We have fought since 1863 for justice. So these kids in the street right now, it's nothing new. We did this in from 54 with Brown versus Topeka all the way up to the 80s, trying to get equal access, equal rights. And yes, we got some laws passed, but guess what? They snuck in behind us and changed the law. So, they kind of eroded this, eroded that. What kind of country tells people, well, we're not going to give you the protection you need to vote? And, and certain people, they shouldn't be allowed to vote. One thing that shocked me, well, they didn't shock me because I was not that surprised because I figured I knew where I was. But when I was in Kenya, everybody in Kenya votes. Even I was shocked. Even prisoners in jail they vote. I was like, this is the way the world should be, where every person has a vote. But in the U.S., there's only two things the United States is concerned about. That's keeping ethnic people down and greed. That, trust me, that is it. So I look at it and I say to these young kids in the street, this is your Birmingham 1963. This picture up here, this one I'm pointing to, I learned how to, this one right here, that is an actual, that's not a stage photo. That is an actual photograph that was taken during the Birmingham campaign for the right to vote in 1963. Those actions in Birmingham in 1963, along with the bombing of 16th Street Baptist Church, where they killed 4 young black girls waiting to go to Sunday school, was the turning point in the civil rights movement, where everyone said, this is wrong. Everyone of moral conscience said, this is wrong. And the amazing thing is that I'd say a good 90% of whites in the U.S. could care less about racism. But it is that 10% that keep it going and keep the laws going and control the laws and control the wealth so that the 1.5% to 2% can control all the wealth. So my position remains, the kids in the street, this is nothing new. You are just continuing a battle that started in 1619 because the first slaves brought here, they fought back to go home. And this moment right now is your Birmingham 1963. This is your Selma 1965. George Floyd is your bombing of 16th Street Baptist Church. That line in the sand that people said, enough. Your George Floyd is R19, I think it was 65, when they went into Philadelphia, Mississippi, and killed 3 civil rights workers, Cheney, Goodwin, and Swerner, but just because they were down there trying to register people to vote. This movement right now, today, is a continuation of the movement of the 60s, including the movement of the Black Panther Party. And don't know everybody go, oh my God, she mentioned the Black Panther Party. Weren't they a radical group of people that were out to destroy the world? No. The Black Panther Party was a group, in fact, they were the first group to discover a correlation between hunger and the ability to learn. And in response to that, they created the first national free breakfast program that fed children, no matter what their race, no matter what their age, no matter what their economic status. They also set up free health clinics. And if you know about the COVID-19, one of the problems was that poor people didn't have access to health care. That was one of the things the Black Panther Party did. And one of the most beautiful things they did was that Fred Hampton, who, by the way, was murdered by the Chicago Police Department, him and Mark Clark, and I think it was 69, were murdered by the Chicago Police Department. Their families filed a lawsuit, won the lawsuit. But in any event, Mark Clark and Fred Hampton were people in the Chicago chapter of the Panther Party. Fred Hampton organized poor Latinos, poor whites, poor Asians, poor people, and people of oppressed backgrounds in the Chicago area and worked with them to set up their own programs of free breakfasts and free health care. And that goes to show you that every time we as a people come up with a means of liberating ourselves in this country, our leaders are destroyed. It could be Malcolm, it could be Martin, it could be Medgar, it could be Jimmy Lee Jackson. All of them murdered at the hands of racists. And it's not just us, because we can never forget Patrice Lumumba in Africa. We must never forget what the CIA did and has done to African leaders that have been speaking truth to power. In any event, to you young kids, I'm going to tell you that I may be old, but hey, I am in your corner. I support you. I say continue the fight, continue to organize, continue to videotape, and continue to post it as quickly as you can so that we can see you, because trust me, we have your backs and we are at your backs, and we want to be the wind beneath your wings. In any event, be blessed, stay safe, and make sure to tell anybody. If the police want to catch the looters, they know where to find them. Instead of them going after the looters, they over there chasing you guys up and down the street, throwing tear gas and smoke grenades and flash bombs and shooting rubber bullets at you. So, I guess it's sort of like 45, you go pick on the person of least resistance. So anyway, be blessed, and remember, we support you.